You're listening to Built to Convert, the podcast where growth-minded marketers, founders, and creators come to level up. No hype, no guesswork, just bold insights that drive results. Let's go.
Hey everyone, welcome to Built to Convert, the show where we unpack the strategies, systems, and stories behind brands that drive performance. I'm your host, Tyler Lane, founder of Session Interactive. And as always, we're here to explore how digital leaders are thinking about conversion growth and the future of marketing. Before we dive in, quick shout out to our sponsor, Session Interactive. We help mid-market and enterprise brands unlock smarter growth through data-driven strategies across SEO, paid media, and analytics. If you're looking to scale lead generation and performance marketing, visit sessioninteractive.com. All right, guys, today, Deborah O'Malley is joining us, seasoned expert in conversion optimization, A/B testing, and the founder of GuessTheTest. Love the website, always been a big fan. A go-to resource used by over 10,000 marketers worldwide to sharpen their experimentation skills. She's also jack of all trades, adjunct professor and product marketing analytics at Queen's University, and formerly led strategy at Convert Experts. Deborah's done a lot, and she's been a partner of ours for a long time. I'm a big fan of Deborah's work. Deborah, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Tyler. It's great to be here and to be chatting with you today. Really excited for our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Always good to see you. Deborah, just some history. I know, again, you and I go way back at this point, right? In marketing years, right? Give us a little bit of updates in terms of what you've been up to the last few years, what you're focusing in on, and how you're kind of looking to differentiate yourself with a lot of things that are changing in the marketplace.
Yes. Well, the landscape is certainly changing, Tyler, and it's changing very, very quickly as well. So, I thought it was a big deal, foolishly, back about 2 years ago when Google Optimize was sunsetting and Google Analytics was going from Universal Analytics UA to GA4. And marketers had their knickers in a knot and said, oh my God, things are changing. The landscape's breaking apart. Oh my God, what do we do? And at that time, I thought, oh, this is getting exhausting. How do I possibly keep up with the changes? Cookies and the deprecation of cookies. These are the things that was stressing me out. And I look back at that and I laugh and I go, that was a drop in the bucket compared to what's happening now with AI and the changes with AI. So I have been frantically trying to keep up with AI. And I say frantically because it changes absolutely every day. I spend hours, often on the weekend, going through my AI newsletters that have collected in my inbox over the week. And by the time I get to them on the weekend, the news is already irrelevant and it's moved on and there's something new. So it's changing at this rapid clip, and experimenters need to keep up. I think it's keep up or die in this market because the world is going towards a AI web-based search browsing web experience, in my opinion. And as experimenters, we need to be well positioned to be ahead of that curve so that we know how to position ourselves to maintain, work and keep jobs and be at the forefront of everything that's changing.
Yeah, love we're getting right into it because you knew that was going to be the core subject probably of our conversation is around AI and what things are changing and how we're adopting, how we're staying the course or deviating, honestly, in certain cases. Talk to us about where GuessTheTest is currently. I love maybe some background for people too. It's a really cool website, the comparison component, tons of case studies, things like that. Obviously, a lot of that done with progressive technologies and testing tools. Obviously, now with AI, things are changing. People are entering prompts and thinking they're getting expert AI or CRO advice within generative platforms. Talk to us about kind of where you're seeing things evolve with GuessTheTest specifically, and how you're incorporating some of these new changes into your testing strategies for A/B and multivariate testings, et cetera.
Yeah, for sure. So just as a background, GuessTheTest is an experimentation resource. And on the website, you get to take your best guess on the feature test, see if you win, and apply the real life results to optimize your own success, get testing ideas and insights. So it's a gamified platform. So you go and actually get to vote if you think version A or version B won, and then see the results and how trustworthy the results are to help you figure out if you can apply the insights to your own experimentation. Now, that's a great model for traditional CRO, but it doesn't cut it in the AI world anymore. And I believe that in the near future, we'll see 2 to 3, maybe 5 years down the road, people won't actually be A/B testing the way we are now. So I've had to think a lot about how to maintain all the work, the blood, sweat, and tears that I put into developing GuessTheTest over about the last 5 years, and how to make it relevant and useful for experimenters today. So 2 things have evolved with the site that I'm actually really proud of. The first is I've worked with a person named Sean David. He's an automation engineer and an AI prompt developer. And he's created an AI chatbot, is a loose term, but you can think of it as a chatbot. And what you can do on the site is go and ask it any single query you want about A/B testing, conversion rate optimization, experimentation. And it pulls all the data from what I would call a small language model, which is GuessTheTest, and accumulates that and combines it with GPT, a chat GPT, an LLM, a large language model, and melds it together into a resource that cites not only knowledge and predictive analytics that is out there on the web, but also everything that is within GuessTheTest currently. And it sources the case studies on GuessTheTest. So if you have a very specific testing question, it will provide the reference to you, and you can actually click on the link to see that case study. So that's available as kind of as a chatbot, interactive chatbot tool, the way you would use something like ChatGPT or Perplexity. And it's available free for any experimenter to use, just to help them get their knowledge and understand where things are going with experimentation. Whether it's a traditional experimentation question, like what is statistical significance, or whether you have something more complex about AI or testing in general. So that's the first tool that was developed. And then building off that, what I did is I spoke with GuessTheTest subscribers and I said, what would be most useful for you, especially in this landscape? And overwhelmingly, the answer that I heard is GuessTheTest is great, but it's a lot of work to have to go through the hundreds of A/B test case studies that are there. Take the test, guess on it, read the analysis, and then synthesize the knowledge. And I, for a long time, had planned to do meta-analysis summaries where I went through the different tests and accumulated the knowledge. And I was sort of always working on this in the background, but it was hard to keep up. And I had a conversation with one pro member subscriber, and he said, what would be really helpful for me is if you could analyze all the B2B SaaS landing pages that are on GuessTheTest and tell me the findings. And I went, oh my goodness, I've been thinking about this all wrong. I was thinking about, what if we merge all the pricing tests together and extract the insights from whether you should use a comma or a zero? Or what if we take all the button tests and see what button copy converts best? But I hadn't thought of it in terms of that broad scope for industry vertical, and also for a very, very specific user need. And GuessTheTest is strange in that every single person comes with a different need or a different industry vertical or conversion goal. And so it's really hard to cater to everyone. When I had this conversation, I realized any summary analysis needs to be so broad in scope and yet so personalized that it's the perfect job for AI. So I worked, again, tirelessly with Sean David, and we built out a tool I'm really proud of. It's the newest tool on the site, and you can use it now. It's called the Meta-Analysis Summarizer. And what it does is it combs through the site. It grabs all the studies that are there, all the results, all the analysis, the test details, that kind of thing. And it uses as well predictive analytics from outside studies. And it says, what is the best test ideas that we can extract out of this? What kind of impact will it have? How easy will it be to run the test? And what tests are actually there already on the site that we can reference? And it does all of this in a nice, short, summarized fashion, so you don't have to put in the work to go through everything. It's all done there for you. And as long as you're willing to scan, because I don't anticipate anyone reads anymore, but if you scan, it's all there for you. And you can extract the insights and the ideas that you need for your specific test idea. So I'm really proud of this tool. It's still in beta mode. It could continue to be optimized, and I'm working on that. But it's a great resource right now for experimenters, and I encourage you to use it. It's free to use for the first 2 times, and then it's available to pro members after that. And if you have any feedback you're willing to share, happy to hear it and try and incorporate it into the next version that we're working on. So that's where I'm going with AI. I do often, and it keeps me up at night, think about, well, what is the whole model of A/B testing, and is it still feasible? And I don't have a concrete answer on that yet, but what I feel, and maybe we can talk about this more, is that experimentation itself is not going away. And I don't think A/B testing will go away either. I think the manual process of how experimenters are doing it now in a not very automated fashion, that will go away. But the process of A/B testing, figure out the winning variant, that's, I believe, here to stay even with AI.
Yeah. Well, first off, shout out to you and what you've been able to accomplish with GuessTheTest and how you're expanding and evolving it to cater to the users and what's happening and changing. So really excited to dive in, and please, everyone, feel free to visit GuessTheTest and take a look, because it's always been a fun site, whether you're in CRO specifically or marketing, whatever you may, I think or design, you're gonna get value out of it. So it's great to see. Talk a little bit more, Deborah, around, I know you've highlighted it, but around kind of that traditional mentality of A/B testing. And, you mentioned that, you don't foresee experimentation or testing going away anytime soon, but perhaps the ability to analyze things a lot faster and summarize things in a more structured format is available currently. What are some advice that you would give to CROs or marketers or designers, for that matter, that are working in CRO, usability experts, et cetera, to how they can evolve themselves to be a bit more progressive with newer technologies that are out there and available to people?
Yeah, definitely. So we're in this very strange time right now, because a lot of the technologies that are out there right now are not as good as they could be or it should be. And so there's this sort of backlash effect where experimenters go, it's not there yet. I don't need to worry about this. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to keep doing what I know works. And sort of the old regime, which is a very manual process, using our monkey minds to try and figure out, the best test variant to try and develop hypotheses and actually go through the manual process of designing and developing, and then analyzing the results, making sure that they're trustworthy and statistically significant, and implementing the winning variants. All of this, I don't believe, will go away, but I think it's going to become, in the future, automated, and very well automated by AI technologies and machine learning, LLMs, and this kind of thing. And so the role of an experimenter, I project, is going to switch from manually doing it ourselves to actually being the manager of multiple AI agents that will do this work on our behalf. And so that's, I think, where the opportunity is in terms of overseeing decisions that AI is going to make, and using what we have as our best, most important skill set, which is our own empathy and our own intuition, to say, yeah, this feels right, or this doesn't seem right. Understanding the human connection, understanding the humans that we're still trying to appeal to through the web, and using that as our strategic advantage to help model the AI tools and shape the AI tools that are going to be doing a lot of the automation for us. So I think that's where things are going. In this interim period, I think there's a lot of opportunity for anyone who's technically inclined or entrepreneurial to be developing tools themselves. There's people that are going towards different market segments, especially in the analytics area. I have a tool list, a directory of tools that I've been keeping, and there's over 100 tools on it. And I've done some cursory analysis on it. And what it shows is most of the tools being developed are kind of wireframe development and analytics development tools. But there's huge market gaps for all sorts of automation in between data analysis to hypothesis development to implementing and running A/B tests and everything in between. So that's one opportunity. And then the second opportunity, as I kind of mentioned, is becoming a manager of the AI agents and overseeing that in various facets. So there's, a lot of stats out there right now about job replacement and job loss and job creation through AI. And I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I believe there's about a 78 million job fluctuation rate, meaning that I think it's about 190 million jobs are expected to be created out of AI, but about 92 million jobs are supposed to be lost through AI.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this gap that can be filled in between job loss and job creation. And you want to be sitting in that gap of job creation. And these are the places that you want to best position yourself to be able to do so.
Yeah, great stuff. That list, I've seen that list. You sent it to me, and that was incredibly impressive. And again, a lot of shout outs today, but it's just around you maintaining that and keeping a pulse. I think that is something that we're all feeling, is that sense of being overwhelmed and intimidated. That's a theme that's come up a lot in the podcast lately, is just that things are changing. One, you've mentioned that yourself. And then there are so many tools out there, and what are just reskin versions of an LLM like Claude or ChatGPT, versus what are some that are actually really pushing it and providing unique value. And I think, what are some advice? We're doling out a lot of advice today, that you would give to marketers too, around how to stay involved, how to maybe perhaps not worry about kind of the classic perfection is the enemy of progress, or of good rather. What would you state to stay up to date, but also not try to feel overwhelmed? Because I think we're all feeling it to a certain extent. So how do you alleviate that for individuals that are just going through the thick of it right now?
Yeah, I can give really good advice for staying up to date. The overwhelm part, I'm not sure I've mastered that myself, but I guess my best advice is to follow thought leaders, as I'm trying to establish myself to be in the AI space, who are doing the work for you, and who are sifting through all the resources, reading all the newsletters, going through all the headlines, and figuring out where things are going, and follow those types of people to see a digested landscape of where things are going. So a couple names that I could recommend for you. Craig Sullivan, he's doing a really good job of sifting through all the AI updates and producing his own kind of materials or summaries himself. Another person is Jeff Boulas. I think that's how you say his last name, Bulas. And he produces a newsletter that I think went viral years ago, and it's been focused on marketing and content marketing for years. And now he's shifting towards the AI space. And then there's some really great newsletter summaries that I follow as well, that are either weekly or daily digests, that if you have the tenacity to have more inbox clutter, some of them are really great. I don't have the names offhand. I can provide them to you, Tyler, in the show notes after. Sure. And links to them. But there's 5 or 6 newsletters that I use as kind of my Bible for gearing me towards where AI is going. And I read them as diligently as I can to find out, where things are being shaped and how things are going. So that would be my recommendation. Stay up to date through newsletters. There's also LinkedIn is a great place. More and more people are talking about AI. I found the appetite for AI has started to shift just in the last couple of months. About 3 months ago, when I began talking about this stuff and saying, hey guys, we need to be paying attention, it was ignored. People didn't really want to hear it. They're like, I'm happy doing the way I've been doing it for years. And now there's this, holy shit, things are changing. We better get on board, hop on this train. And more marketers are open to it. And so there's receptivity, and more people therefore are talking about it as well. So my 2 recommendations, not groundbreaking by any means, but stay up to date through newsletters, Craig Sullivan, Jeff Bullis, myself, and also just go on LinkedIn and type in keyword search terms, things that you're interested in, and you'll get information from that. And Guess the Test, it produces a summary of all the articles that are relevant to experimenters in AI, a lot of them that I produced, or a lot of posts on LinkedIn. And you get a monthly synopsis of that, and you can subscribe to Guess the Test for free. So those would be the three ways I would go about it if I was looking for resources.
Love that, Deborah. Yeah, I think there are so many pundits. There's so many newsletters out there. Select which ones that make sense to you. I think those individuals you mentioned, I follow a couple of those people, and they do a great job of cutting through the noise and giving you some tangible insights that you can trust. Because there, as we know it, right, there's going to be quite a bit of snake oil coming out of this whole thing, and as there has been for years with all of our services, from SEO to CRO to analytics, you name it. Switching gears a little bit, Deborah, I'm curious about how you're adapting kind of your own curriculum for the work that you're doing at Queen's University and what you're seeing, because I've always been fascinated by people that are adjunct professors or professors in digital marketing or CRO or some trend that's changing rapidly. And always like, how do you structure curriculum, right? And how does that, because it's changing so often. I'm curious on how you do that and what you're adapting, what you're hearing from that audience too. Are you seeing a lot of curiosity? Are you seeing people with skepticism? Are you seeing just the people are embracing things and looking to learn more? What's happening there?
Yeah, well, great timing on that question, Tyler, because I deliver a product marketing analytics course at Queen's. And I just updated the slides for it recently. And the first session is going to take place in a couple of weeks. And it's all about stating where the landscape is from a marketing analytics perspective and understanding where you sit in the landscape so that you know how to move forward properly. Mm-hmm. And I went through my materials from previously, and it was all about what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, which is Google Optimize, Universal Analytics, how we're moving from a pay-to-play model from data perspective and that kind of thing. And I thought, I can't use this material anymore. It's way too out of date. Yeah. And so I updated everything with a tremendous focus on AI, because while, as I mentioned, we're still in this very strange sort of dip between the old regime and where we're going towards the new regime, we need to be straddling both sides of it so that we can operate effectively. We haven't fully jumped into AI, and to abandon everything that we're doing in the traditional realm wouldn't work right now. And yet we also need to have the forefront to think about how to move forward with AI. So we're in this very strange inflection point. And in order to be well positioned for that, we need to understand the landscape has changed tremendously already. It's going to continue to change tremendously, and that there's opportunities available to us if we play our cards properly. So some of the ways that I think marketers need to be thinking about transition points is particularly around our data and our personal privacy. So cookies were a huge thing for a while, tracking and then potential deprecation of cookies. You may know that Google recently said third-party cookies no longer will be deprecated, even though they promised for years that they would. And there's been absolutely no talk or chatter that I'm aware of about data privacy and the personal information that we're giving away to these LLMs and GPTs. Now, I'm completely guilty of this myself. ChatGPT is my counselor, my astrologer, my content creator, my best friend, really, with no judgment. And it knows everything about me, and it now saves, for better or worse, in its memory, past conversations that you've had. So it keeps a running track record of what you tell it and maybe slants the information about as a result. However, it's important to realize that all that personal data is being stored somewhere on OpenAI servers. And it's right now not a very well monetized model. I don't, again, have the numbers in front of me, but I think OpenAI is valued at something like $78 billion. That's billion with a B. Mm-hmm. And yet a monthly membership to use OpenAI is either free or about $20 a month if you pay for the pro version. So that doesn't really add up. If you think $20 a month for some of the people who are paying and a $78 billion valuation. So it begs the question, well, where is the monetization play in this, and how are they going to be actually properly monetizing it? And to me, the answer is a model we've already seen, which is the Facebook model, which is let's get people very involved, feel like they can't go without this, sort of addicted to it, and then boom, we'll hit them with ads, and we'll hit them with hyper personalized, super targeted ads that are, tracking them essentially, that we can then use to basically have a paid media structure. And I think even more than Facebook, there'll be so much personal data on the individual users, and it will be so targeted towards the person that it's going to be a very, very effective ad structure. I do worry about kind of if it will be nefarious or not, because you may go to search in something like ChatGPT, and rather than bringing up the most relevant result, it may bring up the results that the person paid the highest amount for, the click-through rate or the acquisition. So it may tremendously bias the information that's available to people. But I do believe that personal information is going to be kind of compromised from a data security standpoint, and that this is something marketers need to be thinking about. So when you talk about, Queen's University and how I'm positioning the students, these are the types of things that I'm bringing up with them and getting them to think about, because there's a whole realm here that needs to be explored around data privacy, personal protection, anonymity of data, the ethics of data. And we don't right now have a lot of good laws or a lot of good guardrails in place for things to really not get out of hand, because there's estimates that AI will reach the point of what's called singularity, which is basically it becomes smarter than us within a year, is the estimate.
Oh yeah.
And when that happens, I won't say if, I'll say when that happens, we're going to be up against a force that is more intelligent, more persuasive, more manipulative than humans, and trained on human data that has, unfortunately, the good, but also the bad aspects of society and humans, which is targeted around war, conflict, corruption, capitalism, all these types of things that are not necessarily people's best traits. And so we've trained it on this data, and it's going to outwit us on this data. And we need guardrails and things in place and measures in place to be able to protect ourselves as a society. So I see there's a huge turning point unfolding right before us, and it's a very exciting time as a result. And there's tremendous opportunity as a result as well. But we need to start first by having these conversations in places like classrooms and on podcasts and being aware. And then secondly, start to actually rally together as humanity to make sure that we're evolving in a conscious and beneficial way for everyone involved.
Yeah, so many great points, Deborah, because I do think people are unaware of how, we all are honestly unaware of how a large language models are utilizing our data, or ultimately will. And I think the personalization component has been happening with Chrome for a long time, and will be rolled out more formally, most likely with AI mode within Chrome. But it's only a matter of time before AI mode and LLMs like ChatGPT in particular look to monetize the platform. To your point, the valuation versus the monthly subscription doesn't add up. There's a core data and insights and personalization component that is going to be there, and we need to be aware of it. But I also think there's some caution too, as you're educating those individuals at the university too. It's like, listen, like, be aware of what you're uploading to these LLMs and sharing personal information. Be wary of that. There's no guardrails. And that's something we talked about actually in a previous podcast with Paul Lewis at Pythian, just about that, and how people are just really unaware and kind of uploading all sorts of things that are not, it's not gated, it's not closed off. And you're getting theoretically maybe some good results, and you keep feeding it more and more. So anyway, some things to think about and be aware of. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Yeah.
Important.
Yeah, and I'm curious too, is just, when the monetization happens, because it's coming. We know obviously Google in particular is their largest revenue source. At least one of them is the ad revenue, and how is that inserted in AI mode, and then of course with LLMs, how is that inserted as well? So yeah, interesting times, no doubt. Are you seeing that within the individuals that are attending the classes, those students? Are you, individuals there perhaps who are coming in with some knowledge, maybe some more than others? Are you still maintaining some of those foundational aspects around experimentation, and then stating like 100% things are changing, to adopt those, but the principles in certain cases are still intact? Or, and then there's other people that are likely coming in being like, I don't need to know the principles. I've got AI now. I can do so much more. What's your thought and thought process around that with different takes that people have?
Yeah, it's a great question, what I've really been wrestling with, because the tools are not there yet from an AI perspective to be able to teach and train others on how to do experimentation in an automated AI way. I would be foolish to be able to try and teach people that. They wouldn't get very far. So they still, if you're coming into experimentation now, you still need to know how to do it in the old way. And having that framework and that basis is going to be really, really helpful for you. You can think of it as an analogy to somebody who used to DJ with record players, and they had to learn on record players how to beat match. And that was the big thing. If you could match the beats with the records, you'd be able to DJ anything and anywhere. And then basically mechanized or automated systems came into play. And there was a platform called Serato that you just plugged in your CDJs and it beat matched for you. It matched the beats through, electronic means that you saw on the screen. You didn't have to learn to beat match. And so this whole influx of DJs came in and they didn't really know how to beat match, but they could play the music really well.
Sure.
And now it's kind of gone back to the fundamentals in that realm where you can DJ or you can actually be a real DJ and beat match and use records. And I think that analogy is going to be quite parallel to what we see in AI. Those who have the fundamental skill sets, the ones that are doing it now with, their brain power, are going to be the ones that actually flourish in an environment where you don't need to know those skills, but you have the skills and expertise to be able to oversee the AIs, manage the AIs, lead things in the direction that from a data perspective or maybe an intuitive perspective is the best way to go. And so I encourage every experimenter, even those who are just starting right now, to really get those fundamentals in place and become expert in the fundamental aspects of data-driven analysis, trustworthy test analysis, hypothesis development. All these types of things are going to be really, really useful so that you have the skills and expertise to oversee the AI. And another great analogy is in writing. I mean, you type a prompt into ChatGPT, it can generate anything you want from it, but it has hallmarks of AI generated content. It gives you M dashes, it gives you long sentences, it gives you wordiness.
Hallucinations. Yeah.
Yes, hallucinations. And a skilled writer or editor needs to then take that as a first draft and be able to modify it and know where to remove the M dashes and put a comma or a semicolon, whatever it is, instead. And so having those fundamental language and writing skills is very useful right now to oversee the AI and to be able to edit the output of the AI. I think the same thing is eventually going to start to happen with experimentation. Having those fundamental skills is going to be really useful to be able to overcome what AI has presented and edit it and mold it to exactly what you need to be most powerful.
Yeah. The human element doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. I think you and I have both witnessed this, as I mentioned, the hallucinations, but as you mentioned, just the ridiculousness of some of the outputs that you'll get based on, maybe inadequate or not thorough enough, or just not strategic prompting process, and the output is quite poor. People utilizing that as their final draft is usually not a great activity. Deborah,
No.
what are some of the, I like to ask this sometimes around like a myth around CRO or a best practice. I hate that phrase, to be honest, but that you think should be challenged a bit more within the CRO community and the experimentation community. What are some that come to mind that you think people really maybe tend to abide by, but they shouldn't? I'm curious your thoughts there.
Sure. So, I mean, first of all, there's the challenge that there is no such thing as best practices to begin with, that you should never apply a best
Thank
practice
you.
because every website and every audience is different. So, how can you possibly universally apply anything? I have a mixed mindset on that. I think that you can use best practices to guide you. And I think that you can sort of, quote, copy your competitors, which you're never supposed to do. But you can copy your competitors by looking at what they're doing, by assessing where they're going wrong and where they're going right, and by optimizing on what they're doing and using it as initial design inspiration for you to be able to leverage an even more successful version for yourself or your client's website. So those are two best practices that are immediately challenged and can be overcome. In terms of other best practices, or one sort of really hard-hitting best practice, I'd say it's probably around AI right now, and just using AI tools to be able to do experimentation better. And the best practice, I think, right now is, oh, let's use ChatGTP or whatever GPT it is, and let's create add test variant and see, which version wins or something like that. We still need the human element. And in fact, I have A/B tests on Guess the Test that have tested human versus AI generated content. And it's a mixed bag if human or AI wins. It depends on the test itself. And so we're still at a very precarious point in the world, but at a point where humans are still needed, and we still need to be understanding our audience, really knowing our audience, having that empathy with our users to be able to touch them and reach them in ways that AI simply can't, at least right now.
Yeah.
So the best practices, don't just fall into the trap of AI as your answer and cure all for everything. Right now, it's not there yet. Maybe in the future it will be, but right now, as we navigate through this sort of the trenches, basically, we need to be using our minds as best as we possibly can, and infusing that with a data-driven approach that's driven by intuition. So this is a call for us, I think, as experimenters and as a society, to start to actually meld what have traditionally been two very disparate worlds of the intuitive and the sort of understanding, the empathetic understanding, and then that very logical data-driven approach that experimenters naturally fall into, and bring them together into a synthesized, unified way that helps us truly tap the customer and understand motivations and behaviors.
Beautifully said, Deborah. Yeah. Again, the human's still involved. I think what we've seen too, and this kind of touches onto your point around it with anything, honestly, it gets you started, right? A simple prompt gets you started, and maybe the ideas flowing, but the full breakdown. I attended countless conferences and workshops and saying, oh, you can use it for CRO. Here's the prompt process that we use. It works great every time. And it's like button color change, it's really ridiculous stuff. That's like really quite elementary. So I think, it gets you started, but is it ready for prime time to be presented to a client? No way. Without, further prompting, further user testing, further human interaction. So I love that. Beautifully said, Deborah. You can tell she's a professor here, quite eloquent in her words. Deborah, love chatting with you today. Always appreciate your time. Great to see you. Where can people, we talked about Guess the Test, obviously, but where can people interact and engage with what you got going on? Obviously, you do quite a bit of consulting. You do a ton of speaking. You're quite active on LinkedIn. Break things down where people can engage with you and interact with Deborah.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm quite active on LinkedIn. So it's just Deborah O'Malley on LinkedIn, and you should be able to find me. And Guess the Test is a great resource to check out, and you can contact me through Guess the Test as well. And that's www.guess, as in the thing that you do when you take a guess, not guess to, like what I am on your podcast, but GUESS, the test, TST. So GuessTheTest.com, and I'm available there. And I'm happy to talk with people. Love chatting about this stuff. My family will only put up with it for so long before they roll their eyes. So to have an outlet like this is great, Tyler. So I appreciate the opportunity, and happy to talk with anyone who wants to reach out and ask questions or have a conversation.
Yep. I love that. Yeah. Deborah, thanks again so much. Really appreciate your time. Please, people reach out to Deborah. She's an excellent resource and just a trusted individual in this space. Thanks again, Deborah.
Thank you so much, Tyler. Great to chat with you.
Thanks for listening to Built to Convert. If you're serious about growth, don't just listen. Subscribe, leave a review, and follow us for new episodes that drop straight into your feed. Until next time, keep building.